Excellent. All right, let's go ahead and get started. So welcome everyone. My name is Will Moss. I'm the CEO of HBCU Connect and a partner with Trabajamos. This evening we're going to be presenting Microsoft, AHA, the Azure Hardware Architecture Organization, and opportunities with this excellent and awesome organization. So we've got a group of panelists that have volunteered their time to present their opportunities, to introduce you to themselves, what they do on the team, give you some ideas of what it would be like to work for this particular team within Microsoft. Everybody knows Microsoft is a huge company. We do lots of events for Microsoft. But the exciting thing is that these events that we do for Microsoft result in people getting interviews and people getting hired. So I don't know if you guys have seen some of that on our website, where I've interviewed some folks that have attended our events and got hired. So we're super excited about this opportunity for you. So you are in the right place to take advantage of this awesome opportunity. All right, so you guys, if you're just now joining, please keep your video feed off and make sure you're on mute so that we can minimize any distractions and focus on the video feed and audio from the Microsoft team during the event. But if you do have questions and you'd like to engage with our panelists after they've introduced themselves, you can drop those questions in the chat. And then I'm going to encourage the Microsoft team to keep an eye on the chat to answer your questions. All right, so the first thing I like to do as we get started with these virtual events is I like to go over the agenda so that you guys know what we're going to cover in this interactive live event. So the first thing, I'm going to give you guys a brief welcome from myself, a little bit of background on our partnership with Microsoft and what these events are all about. Then I'm going to introduce our keynote speaker, who is Eric Chung, a partner group engineering manager within Azure Hardware Architecture, the group. So after Eric does his keynote, I may ask Eric a few questions on behalf of you guys as candidates, but if you guys have questions that you want me to ask Eric after he finishes up his keynote, feel free to drop those questions in the chat as he's speaking, and then I'll try to engage Eric a bit. But congratulations to Eric. He just had a newborn, so he's going to have to run after the keynote, so make sure you get those questions in while he's speaking. Okay, after our keynote presentation from Eric Chung, I'm going to introduce our team of panelists from the Azure Hardware Architecture team who have graciously volunteered their times to join us tonight to talk about who they are, their path to Microsoft, their path to joining the AHA group and organization, what they currently do and what they currently work on within that team, and some of the opportunities on their team and what they like about working for Microsoft and the AHA team. All right, so I'm going to introduce you all to each of the panelists. I want you to know who you're speaking to, who you have the opportunities to ask questions to, and what they do. Then we're going to jump into a panel discussion where it'll be an opportunity for you guys to learn more about the Microsoft culture, what makes the AHA team unique, and what is it like to work on that team from a cultural perspective. And then also, I'm going to open up the floor for live Q&A. So if you guys have questions, you can start to feed those questions to me in the chat, and then I will start to feed those questions to our panelists to answer during that live Q&A and that panel discussion. All right, so you guys make sure to take advantage of that. And then after we get through with the live panel discussion, we'll talk about next steps. So, you know, as I'm about to get into, this is a huge opportunity for you all if you're looking to land a life-changing opportunity to work for a great company like Microsoft. All right, so we'll talk about that in the event and the next steps. All right, so quick introduction for myself. Like I said, my name is Will Moss. I'm the founder and CEO of HBCU Connect. I'm also a partner with Trabajamos. This is our first joint event with the Trabajamos and HBCU Connect at the same time, with the intention being to help Microsoft and specifically the Azure Hardware Architecture Organization connect with more African American and Latinx talent and other minorities as well by way of this particular event. So the opportunity here for you, and the thing that gets me super excited, is that Microsoft is a company that is a leader in the diversity space. We started a relationship with Microsoft almost 10 years ago, where initially they came on hbcuconnect.com. They started posting jobs and sourcing resumes from our database and connecting with our members that way. But leadership at Microsoft said, hey, this is great. We're starting to see the needle move on people being aware of our opportunities and applying and that kind of thing. But how do we make sure, because Microsoft is such a big company and we get so many applications, how do we make sure to get your members from HBCU Connect and now Trabajamos in front of our hiring managers and our recruiters to ensure that they're getting interviewed and that they're getting hired. And so we came up, after that conversation, we came up with the idea of hosting events. And so about 8 years ago, we started hosting physical events with different organizations and teams within Microsoft all over the country, from the DC, Maryland, Virginia area to New York, to Atlanta, to Dallas and Houston, and even out in California, up in Seattle. We've hosted events all over the country specifically for diverse candidates to connect with Microsoft. And then Microsoft was hosting interviews after the events and making hires after the events. Now, fast forward to the COVID-19 pandemic, kudos to Microsoft. They didn't give up on the effort to recruit more diverse candidates because we couldn't do events physically, and we pivoted to doing the events online. So that brings us to this opportunity today. Last year, I think we did more events for Microsoft than we have ever done it before in the history of the relationship. Sometimes doing 3 or 4 events specifically for Microsoft to introduce you to different teams and help folks get hired. So if you're interested in a real opportunity, this is an excellent opportunity for you to connect with folks at Microsoft, learn more about one of the teams that is hiring, and then put your resume into the ring to potentially get an interview and be hired. So definitely listen up, definitely ask questions, definitely make sure that resume is sharp, and make sure you get it to us, which we'll talk about in the next steps. But that is the opportunity for you here tonight. So you're in the right place at the right time. So with that being said, let me go ahead and introduce our keynote speaker, who is Eric Chung, Partner Group Engineering Manager for Azure Hardware Architecture Team. So Eric, if you're ready.
Yes, I am. Will, can you hear me okay? Just want to make sure mic's coming through.
Yes, sir.
Excellent, great. Well, thank you so much, and Will and all the organizers who I know a lot of hard work went behind the scenes to put this together. So very, very grateful, and also very honored and humbled to have the opportunity to come and meet and engage with this vibrant community, and really hoping even beyond that, well, some of us might even be working together in the future. So just very, very, very excited for that. And obviously, I would have loved to do an in-person event, but it's been obviously very difficult. And I'm just so glad, at the least, despite through all the challenges that the world is facing, we're still able to connect. And so this is an opportunity I'm treasuring. So let me, before I jump into what AHA is about, and one of the things you'll find out about Microsoft is that we have a lot of acronyms. So please, if anything ever jumps out at you, it's like, what does that acronym mean? Please ask, because that's actually one of the things often happens a lot during onboarding when we hire new employees. Oh, there's a lot of acronyms. I got to go and get a decoder ring here to figure out what's going on. Okay, so a little bit about myself, and I'm going to spend some time to talk about my journey. I mean, one of the things you might have picked up on in job history is that I've been a long time at Microsoft, and I've been actually a huge Microsoft fanboy, even at early in high school, actually. Let's see. So today, I live in Woodinville, Washington. I've spent, I think we're coming up on 10 happy years, 9 years in Washington. But, I actually started in a lab out in Mountain View at the time. I was actually, so I'll go a little bit personal history. I'll jump into Microsoft. So, my parents were first generation Chinese immigrants. So my mother was from Taiwan and my dad was Chinese Malay, came from Malaysia. And so I was very, very lucky to have the support from my parents. We moved around a lot. I actually was born in Missouri and lived in places like Kansas. And my folks ultimately settled down in California. And so that's where I spent a lot of my early years. And you can see that, I didn't stray very far when I finished high school. I ended up going to a public university in California at Berkeley. And that's where, really what got me hooked on engineering. I mean, I always had a passion for computers, really computer games. So I played a lot of computer games, and in order to make the computers games work on a lot of wimpy hardware, I had to go do a lot of tweaking and so it was always bugging my dad. I need to buy more RAM, but we couldn't afford it, so we didn't do it. But still managed to get the games to work. And I was very lucky to join the ECS department at Berkeley, and that's where really I was feeling my way around. I really didn't know. I never even really thought I would end up at Microsoft, which even at the time I was in college was really a software company. Hardware was really not part of Microsoft's DNA, and that's something I want to talk a little bit about later. It was at Berkeley. I actually, had opportunities to experience software engineering, computer science, computer engineering, circuits. At one point, I thought I was going to go into device physics. Even as I was finishing up college, I really wasn't still sure what I was going to do. And this is something that I don't think I shared with a lot of people, but I actually got rejected from Microsoft 3 times. I was interviewing for positions, but actually software engineering, computer science turned out to not really be my strength. So that really helped me, I think, narrow down, what I really wanted to do. And I was kind of at a fork in the road. Do I want to continue education or not? And then I decided that I didn't have quite enough yet of learning. I was still felt like there was a lot to grow, and so I ultimately went to CMU and had 6.5 wonderful years in Pittsburgh, and so that was a really great opportunity to kind of spread out and take some risks and try different directions. And ultimately, I settled on computer architecture, and computer architecture is this wonderful field that kind of sits at the intersection of hardware and software, and that is a big part of actually what the Azure hardware architecture team is doing, and I'll get into a little bit more of that later. And so I'm going to skip some steps, but I ultimately managed to land my dream job at Microsoft, even though I had several failed attempts. So I guess for me it wasn't a straight line. It wasn't a shoe-in, and ultimately it was about finding the right fit. And I hope all of you think about that too, and especially as you're going through the job search, it can certainly be very, very challenging, even demoralizing if you're not getting the hits that you hope. Take it from me, it's like I've gone through I think there's something to be said for perseverance, and also just understand that not everything is even about you. Like sometimes what's happening in a particular engineering organization, there's so many other factors, and like fit is such a key here. Like are you at the right stage in your career for a specific area? And sometimes it's about the right, the opportunity, the right time and opportunity, and to give yourself the maximum chances, you've got to just, continue to keep trying, right? And so take it from me, if your first try with Microsoft doesn't go the way you thought it would, don't give up, because and the hiring managers, I think on our team, what I've really enjoyed doing is that we look at it, we're always trying to think of a way to match someone in a way that plays to their strengths. It's like, okay, maybe for the specific role we were interviewing, it didn't match up perfectly, but we're going to keep trying. We're going to continue to talk to other hiring managers, even other parts of the organization outside of AHA, because I think we recognize when we see people with very high growth potential, and there's nothing like meeting somebody who has just displays incredible passion and eagerness to learn. And okay, so let me jump into so after I think oh, sorry, one more minute, and then we can move forward. So even at Microsoft when I joined, I didn't expect to be actually in an engineering role. And that's one of the things is that can happen, is that you start somewhere. It's not going to be a straight line, and there'll be different click stops on the way to the thing that you ultimately you find that match, that sort of fine tuning of what you're passionate and what plays to your strength, and ultimately where the needs of the company are, you're continually fine-tuning that and eventually, get your way. So you can see actually in my last 3-4 previous roles, I was entirely in a research role. But even when I was holding the research title, over time, what I found was that I really relished this intersection of open-ended research and scientific inquiry, following through my curiosity. But that alone really wasn't enough. Then why I became an engineer, because I love seeing ideas come to fruition, making something materialize, and that is a big part of what we're about here in AHA. And so I think that's a good segue into the next couple of slides. Will, how am I doing on time? You're good. Okay. All right.
Yeah, you're good.
Okay.
You're good.
Just all right. Just let me know if I'm chewing up all the time. Okay, so this is like the I don't know 30,000-foot view of the major organization that AHA is part of. And so if you haven't heard of Azure, Azure is Microsoft's cloud computing business. Azure is I don't remember the exact number, but it's at least 10 years and counting. But it's grown by leaps and bounds. It's the mission statement of the organization is to build the world's computer and put cutting edge technology at the world's fingertips. We have, I think, on the order of 50 data centers worldwide, so the sun never sets on Microsoft, with powerful connectivity and computing horsepower, and memory, and a wide variety of technologies that span accelerators to general purpose CPUs to technology that's specialized for AI and machine learning. And it's a really breathtaking, I think, technological feat. I guess for me, there's nothing more exciting than having an opportunity to come and work on the world's computer, and it's also an incredibly significant responsibility. We have to maintain the infrastructure that's not only meeting computational requirements, it needs to be trustworthy. The security, isolation guarantees. We have to be able to protect against hackers, right? And Azure is continually under assault. But and so from a business side as well, Azure is flourishing at Microsoft. I think it is a shining star, and it's continuing to grow. It's a big organization. It's on the order, I think last time I checked, it's probably a lowball number, 20,000 people, and it takes a more than a village. It takes a big group of people to keep the world's computer humming along. But with that, there's just incredible, I think, career opportunities, whether you lean more towards the business dimension, thinking about strategy or supply chain, or if you tilt a lot more towards the hardcore technology. And before I joined Microsoft, I didn't realize to the extent, the depth and the breadth of the kinds of activities we played in. You would be just totally shocked. We're doing things like immersive cooling. We're putting data centers in submarines underwater, as an example. We're building out technology on the edge that can do things like support intelligent storefront. So we have computing power out of the edge. On the edge, there's on-prem support there. There's light edge as well, and heavy edge. So there's a lot, I think, under the umbrella of Azure. And I personally feel very privileged and lucky to be here to have this opportunity. And it's just incredible playground. And also, of course, the place to go and further my career, because you always have a challenge around the corner, like anywhere you go. And so that is always never boring, right? You always have an opportunity to tackle something new and important. And the last thing I want to add, and this is true of Microsoft and really I think two cultural aspects, I would say. I've been at Microsoft 10 years, so I was there when I saw the handover to Satya, and it's just been a profound transformation. And I think the one thing that I would just say is that Satya has brought humanity to the company. Like, it's not just about delivering the right business outcome, like, hey, let's just drive up profits, get stock price up, or we want to do it the right way, right? That means having an inclusive culture. It means, covering with my thumb, an inclusive culture. When we talk about diversity and inclusion, it's not lip service. I actually have conversations about that with the managers who report it to me and my team every round, right? What are we doing on that front? We're hiring people who are also passionate about that. So I just want to you'll have to take my word for it, but it is absolutely something that we treat as fundamental to the company. I think that was all ushered really when Satya came and took over the company. And a big reason why I've stayed for 10 years. In fact, I've turned down places that would have offered much stronger salaries even, right? But the culture wasn't there. And to me, like, that will impact your lived experience day in, day out. So that culture permeates through Microsoft, and especially Azure. And I would add Azure, just the kind of ambition you see, when we talk to people at all levels, whether it's the highest levels of at the CVP, or you're just meeting people on the team, the devs. Like, there's this united sense of purpose and ambition, and that to me, married with the talent, is just what makes such a great place to work. So, okay, so that's my little bit on this slide. So now we're going to sort of zoom down. I don't know what altitude I was at before, 20,000. So this is like the 10,000 altitude. So Aussie is so yeah, this is the acronyms. Stands for Azure Hardware Systems Infrastructure. So this is the organization. I'm part of it. So I think it's still a relatively young organization. It's been growing very fast over the last couple of years. And so when we talk about Azure's as the world's computer, that computer is powered by incredible infrastructure that's made up of silicon, memory, networking, firmware, software, right? And backing that is a supply chain, right? So when you actually take a step back to comprehend what it takes to launch things into the data center, and that checklist and all the risk management that goes into it, it's quite humbling when you see that. And Aussie plays that role of making sure the underlying substrate that powers the world's computer is up and running at all times, right? And there's so many dimensions to what Aussie does. There's the architecture, which is the AHA, which is a sub team under Aussie, but there's the systems infrastructure. So we have to build custom motherboards and chassis. We do our own topologies, cabling. There's thermal modeling to make sure that these things don't overheat when we deploy them at scale. There's life site management. How do we triage? Because we need to present systems that look and feel totally reliable, right? Because just our customers depend on this for this, and especially we have also government customers, right, that have just placed incredibly high demands on what we do, not just from a hey, this runs, but also just the security requirements, right, and all the clearance that we have to provide. So Aussie just is responsible for providing that foundation, everything from systems to chips, architecture. So it's a very, very exciting place to be. Jameer, can you advance? Yeah. So I already touched a little bit about what it's about, and I think that the other thing I wanted to highlight is data centers also have an incredibly high carbon footprint, as you know, and actually at Microsoft, this is something that we actively think at all levels of the stack. There's sustainability, and there's actually a commitment by the company to get to net zero carbon emissions. I'm going to probably misquote the date, but it's in the order of, I think, maybe tilde about a decade, right? But it's going to take a fair amount of work. Obviously, in the technology we deploy, we need to have much more efficient processor systems, right? That's going to take a lot of innovation to move that forward. But there's even other things like just what is the carbon footprint of our supply chain? Like, who do we source components from? And just that alone has a huge component as part of that. And so I think the net point here is it's not just putting out the world's computer, it's doing it responsibly, right? And that's for me always been a huge I think recurrent theme in everything I see at all levels of Microsoft leadership. Especially in things like AI as well, where there's a lot of potential for goodness and also a lot of potential for bad actors to take it in the wrong direction. And what I love about Microsoft is, and it's not that we haven't made mistakes. I'll be very honest. We had this Tay chatbot, if you haven't heard of it, but things like that. We learn and we pay attention. We don't try to repeat these types of mistakes. And so we try to be responsible stewards, right, in the technology that we're building. And so that's something I'm just incredibly proud of. I think I'm not going to touch on every one of these things. I guess there's also solving problems of today, tomorrow. There's clearly the stuff we have deployed today, but technology moves so fast, and keeping up with it, takes entire teams that are thinking about, we call it sort of Horizon 0, Horizon 1, Horizon 2. We have to keep an eye on the future and make sure that what we're putting in our data centers is going to be leading world class. It's going to be competitive. It's going to serve the needs of our customers. And so, when you just sort of look at a cross-sectional slice of our teams across Aussie, you have teams that are, really focusing on the problems of today. We have to, maintain the data centers. We're managing the supply chain, but we're also thinking about stuff that, almost at the borderline of science fiction. You look, it's like, wow, this is where computing could be in the next 3, 5, even 10 years. And so I think that's another wonderful quality of Aussie, is that we have this mix of challenging, realistic, practical issues we're solving today, but also not holding back and thinking about holding back in terms of ambition about what the future could look like. Okay, should we get to the next slide? Okay, now we're at the 1,000-foot level. All right, so AHA is so that's actually now the team I'm in. AHA, Aussie, Azure. So AHA stands for Azure Hardware Architecture. We're a team that's a couple hundred and counting, and still continuing to grow at a very good clip. And what AHA's mission is about is architecting this world's computer that I've been talking about, right? Architecture means understanding your customer's requirements. It's also trying to understand what the future requirements are, because maybe even today your customers may not know exactly what you want. So you got to take input from all over, from different directions. And it also means leveraging experience and good instincts and technical thought leadership in order to make the right calls and bets around, what should we be doing in terms of CPUs in 2026, 27, what should we be doing in terms of networking technology and optics, what should we be thinking about cooling technology as we go from air cooling to liquid cooling and beyond, immersion cooling, right? There's, I think a group here that's, a concentration of individuals who are thinking really, really hard about what the next generations of Azure computing should look like. And it's a very exciting place to be. Also, a lot of weight, I think, on this team's shoulders, because we have a lot can go wrong if we don't make the right calls, right, and nail the key decisions. And we obviously, keep an eye on our competition and want to make sure we're staying ahead of the curve and not going to be disrupted. And so, yeah, in AHA, there's a lot of different focus points. One of the big ones I'll touch on is machine learning, AI and machine learning. And if you I think it's hard to miss it, but in case you have, AI is kind of poised to be, I would say this. I might be sounding hyperbolic, but it's almost at the magnitude of the next industrial revolution. The impact that AI is going to have on technology, but also just our everyday lives and society. I think from the things we see, some of it public, but also confidentially, it is, it's coming, and we have to get ready for it, and we have to also make sure that it's deployed in a responsible way. If you haven't looked at this demo, or I would search GitHub Copilot. That's an example of the kinds of disruptions that are on the way. So GitHub is this company before it was joined Microsoft through the acquisition, was very, very popular, world's most popular open source repo, and they partnered with OpenAI to actually build this model called GPT-3. And if you look up this Copilot, it actually is comprehending code as you're writing it. So if you're a programmer, imagine like you're authoring in Python, and as you're typing out your function header and some comments, like this AI is actually just reading your text as you go and providing suggestions about how you should hydrate that function, and it gets it right like 70-80% of the time, which is a little scary, right? And of course it's not perfect, and sometimes we'll come out with silly examples, and that's like the first version of this product that thanks to this incredible OpenAI and GitHub partnership, and Azure, of course, to make this possible. But it's a sign of, I think, what's to come, that that we're going to be in a position to, I think, exponentially change how influence productivity and change how people do work, right, and enable people. And so it's especially as part of AHA, we focus on the core bread and butter general purpose compute, and that stuff is always super important. But what I'm a little biased because this is an area that I'm spending a lot of time in, is the AI, and to make AI sing, you need incredibly efficient hardware, you need incredibly efficient algorithms, and you need to look at the intersection of that together. It takes not just a village, but a lot of interdisciplinary collaboration to make that happen. So can we jump to the next slide? I think I wanted to just get into more concreteness about the kinds of roles we hire for. And so, as I was just mentioning, like, and I think what I'm putting out here applies to both AI and, general purpose compute and other things we have going on, but it takes people of all different kinds of disciplines in order to pull off these technological feats. And there's no lone wolf person that can hope to achieve it all. And here, this picture is a little bit more biased towards engineering side, and what's missing here are also the program managers, the biz dev, leaders, the people who worry about the supply chain and negotiating contracts, right? There's a lot of things that come together on an engineering side. If you just kind of look at some of the keywords here, and this is by no means, again, I say complete. Like, if you flip open a classic computer science textbook, you'll see like all the layers of the stack, from algorithms at the very highest level down to like transistors at the bottom, and it's all happening within Aussie and AHA. And I said earlier, AHA has a really big architecture bent, and you'll see that really bolded in the middle. But what's really unique about AHA, especially in the AI side, is that there's some parts of the organization we build a very tight vertical team, and actually have hired engineering groups. So if you're thinking, well, I'm not an architect, and that's not something that I know much about, this is the place to come and learn about it, but also potentially work in a role that plays to your strength. Like if you are passionate about software engineering, C++, Python, or you like data science, like you want to understand, like you like PyTorch or TensorFlow, and scraping through data and building models that can do prediction. We have teams and openings that I think support that kind of interest. We also have people working at the intersection of hardware, software. So if you really passionate about firmware, like I love coding to low level, coding down to the metal near the CPU, right? Or I like to build high performance kernels. We have people doing that. Or you just like love thinking about circuit design, like logic gates, and just really building them out and optimizing. We have our IP, RTL skill sets. We have people thinking about physical design, like if you're a spatially inclined person, that's a fun place to be, as you're thinking about how do I place and route different blocks on a design on a chip in order to optimize wire length and get the power where it needs to be. If you care about compilers or networking, I guess my point here is there's something for everyone, and don't feel discouraged, especially like if you didn't get matched to the right position or team in the beginning, we have a broad range, and so I'm very optimistic that we will be able to find a good fit with a lot of people here. Okay, so yeah, and earlier I mentioned is the sun never sets on Microsoft, and this is true of our data centers, and it's becoming true of our people as well. When I joined Microsoft, we were, of course, like a lot of companies, like Redmond was absolutely the company mothership. That is where most people were encouraged to join. And of course, if you were not sitting in Redmond, sometimes it was hard to get the attention you wanted. You weren't necessarily part of the main action. And I think especially with the pandemic, but also just what the company is realizing is that talent is everywhere. It doesn't just exist in a few regions or cities around the world. Talent is global, and there's definitely especially if you've been in just one place a long time, and this is true of me, you can have the similarity bias. It's like, well, I'm just hiring people who from places that I know or schools that I know, and I think that's completely changed. I'm happy for it because I actually have this little dot right in the middle, someone who's working out of Israel, and we actually have a really great remote working policy, and the managers, of course, have put a lot of work into making adjustments to different time zones, and so you can definitely see, I won't read all of them, but you can see that a lot of the places where we've been opening sites, but also just people who have been working in home offices, right? So there's a number of people on my team who just work full time from home office. I mean, that's to me an incredible perk. There's definitely trade-offs, as you imagine. There still would be helpful, to come in once in a while and meet the team. People still relish the get into a room with a conference room with a whiteboard together and just be able to chat. And just a month ago, thanks to Jeremy and others, helped me organize my first virtual social event. And so we did this thing where we did sort of parallel events in multiple sites, and then we had some screens to get everybody linked together. And so that was a really wonderful bonding event. And so we're finding ways to adapt to these new circumstances. But I think even without for that, I think just the fact that we acknowledge that not all the talent just lives in Redmond. Talent is worldwide, right? Okay, I think that's my last slide, and I really over to Joe Mary. I just wanted to thank all of you for taking the time to listen and get to know Microsoft. I really, really hope you consider us in your future. I've been here 10 happy years, 10 very fulfilling years, and hope to add tens more on top of that. I think there's no better place that brings together talent, ambition, and humanity, like the humility you see in the people you meet, and the inclusiveness. You join, everyone wants to help, and we don't work against each other. As an example, a big part of our core values is to not have internal competition. And we also encourage our managers and our devs to be mindful of other perspectives. Like, take the time to pause before you immediately refute, right? Try to think it through from the other person's position. So I think we are a lot more than just about, especially as the engineering side, we're a lot more than just the technology and getting the work done. It's, how we're getting that work done. Okay. And apologies. I think I've got to run back and help my wife out with a newborn. But I really look forward to subsequent follow-ups. And I will actually later monitor to go back to the chat and see if there are any questions. And yeah. So with that, thank you all again. Will, thank you very much. And I'm going to turn that over to Joe Mary.
Great. Thank you so much. I think he's left, but Eric did an amazing job, and not just talking about what our team does as a whole, and even the teams that we're a part of, but I think he already did a great job in painting a picture to everyone here about our team and how we think about culture and diversity and how that is important to us. So I won't take too long because I know we have others to speak, but I just want to just put a little more color on what he talked about. So my name is Gilmar Vieira, and I manage the people and culture aspects for AHA, for the team that Eric is part of. So we have, especially through COVID and through the last couple of years that have been really mostly working from home, we have really thought, engaged with our teams to understand what it's like for them, because we have people all over the place, to really understand what it's like for them working from home. And we all have different situations. We have people like Eric that already had a 2-year-old and now he's got a newborn, and we have people that are just out of college, and there are people that have been in the industry for a long time. They have kids in in college like I do. So we really have a variety of people. So we trying to find ways to get engaged and understand from people what matters to them. How do we stay connected? How do we stay engaged throughout this time when we're not in the office? And we've learned so much. And here is just a snapshot of some of the things that we've gotten feedback from people and we are putting in place. We have monthly syncs that we get to hear from the LT, what's top of mind, and then also what's top of mind for everybody. We have summer activities. There are, like he was talking about, that are virtual activities. We have learning series. We have some things called learning sessions, in which we have different teams come and talk about the projects they're working on, other areas that you could potentially learn from. We have really evolved that, which we have people from outside of our org coming in and sharing. Those are sharing learning opportunities, but also times that people come together to kind of see each other a little bit through these events. We have newsletters that keep everybody informed of what's happening, what's coming up. We have just a variety of things. We have programs like a kudos program, because you can't just kind of go around and pat people on the back and say, wow, that was a great job that you did. Or so we just put something virtual in place where you can go to a website and do that to a coworker who went outside of his area to kind of help out with a project or something like that. And we are constantly, for us it's a loop. We don't know what's working unless you tell us. So it's the communication that keeps going. It's a two-way communication. So we are constantly taking a pulse of what's working and what's not, so we can create opportunities for us to engage, stay connected, and just make sure that we are learning about each other, what works for us, and support each other in a way that it feels more human and more connected. That it gets really hard with working from home. And we're also developing a lot of for us, culture is important. Diversity is super important. We are creating new programs and always looking at new ways to bring diversity of skills and talents and of people into our organization, because we really believe that. And like this program is one of them, an example of that. And we are searching others and doing more stuff in that space. And like Eric said, it really is important to us. It's not just what we do, it's how we do it. AHA is a very special place that we do amazing things, but the way we do it is also really people come first. So we're so excited about this event, and looking forward to talking to you all more in the months to come. And hopefully lots of you will join us. And if you do, I'll be one of the first people we'll be talking to. So with that, I'll turn it back over to you and you can move on.
Awesome. Thanks, G. I appreciate that. And let me reiterate to folks, you're talking to some champions of diversity. The folks that are coming to present to you this evening within Microsoft. These are real champions in diversity. So this is a great company, but you got to be on point, right? So, Microsoft's opening the door, putting programs together to create opportunities, but at the same time, we want you guys to make sure that you're at your best. And Microsoft has some policies as well. Like, they want to hire good people, and that good people doesn't just mean good on paper, good on a resume, and you're smart, but also good people from a personality perspective and from what type of team member you might be. So this is a great organization, and I just reiterate the things that G just expressed. So with that, I want to thank Eric as well for being our keynote. awesome keynote. So now you guys have a high level of the organization of Aussie as well as AHA. Now let's talk to some of the team members that have volunteered their time to introduce themselves and join our panel discussion. So I'm going to introduce each team member one by one so that you know who you're talking to, and then you can start to ask questions, and then we'll jump into our panel discussion. So our first panelist is Fanny Nina Paravecino, Senior Engineering Manager. So Fanny, if you would like to introduce yourself and what you do within AHA.
Thank you, Will. Happy to do so. Can you hear me well?
Absolutely. Yep.
Okay, cool. Thank you for having me again. I'm happy to be part of this community and kind of share my perspective. So my name is Fanny. I'm a senior engineer manager. I'm from Cusco, Peru. I'm actually did my undergrad in Cusco in my hometown. My undergrad was in computer science. Actually, it was computer engineering because we didn't have computer science in my school, so it was computer engineering. When I finished, it's a sad story is when I was doing my undergrad, there was no Microsoft Peru itself, but they came to Cusco because they want to do, Microsoft wanted to do Windows and Microsoft Office translated to Quechua, which is the native language of the Inca Empire. And given that Cusco was the capital of the Inca Empire, they reached out to students from computer science or engineering at my school, and I ended up working on that. So my first my first job as a computer science program, I was at Microsoft. This was when I was still a student. It was such a wonderful experience. I studied that program for a couple of years because it took different versions of Windows OS and Microsoft Office to translate to Quechua, so it was a lovely experience. After that, I decided to go to a software engineering roles. I was pursuing different software engineering roles. In my country, in Peru, I went to the banking industry, which was the main source of software engineering at that point. I spent a couple of years and I realized that I didn't want to keep using the technology. I felt that I wanted to actually do the technology, create the technology, and I was more leaning towards research and something that I felt was lacking on my country. So I applied to a master. I went to Puerto Rico for a master. I did my master in computer engineering. And then from that, it just cascaded to do a PhD. It was just the next logical step. I wasn't sure about doing the PhD because of the amount of years that you have to invest on it, but I love the research. And I have such a wonderful advisor on my PhD that completely convinced me that that was the right call for me, and it was. So after spending time on my PhD, I did a couple of internships. One of them was here in the Bay Area where I'm located. I'm in the Bay Area. I'm one of the few that are not on the mothership in Redmond. I'm in the Bay Area. I did an internship at Apple. I spent almost a year doing the internship, and I realized that after doing my PhD, I wanted to go to the industry. Usually after doing research or at least graduate programs, there is always the path to go stay in the academia or to go to the industry. And for me, it was very clear that I wanted to go to the industry. So after finishing my PhD, I applied to different positions, and I ended up at Intel because they were working on something very cool, interesting about high performance computing. My research during my PhD was very close to computer architecture. I was part of the Northeastern University Computer Architecture Research Lab. And that research lab, what we did was a lot of optimizations at the computer architecture level, but also at the system level. So many of my contributions during my research was a lot into how we can execute this particular workload at the maximum high performance execution that could be, either in a single node execution or a multiple node execution. And Intel was trying to pioneer on that front from the perspective of multiple node execution. So I joined Intel as a research scientist. I stayed with Intel for a couple of years. We were doing very cool stuff, a lot of AI. Interesting enough, when I was doing my master, we were working heavily on image processing, and then there was the trend about neural networks, which was the main root of AI, what we know right now of AI. But neural network back then, I'm talking about in 2008, 2009, was not what it is right now, right? So it was a very simple neural network of a system that very, very simple. It didn't have the accuracy that we have right now. So I didn't pursue further that. I moved heavily into computer architecture. But when I finished my PhD and I went to the industry, AI has grown a lot, right? In the last 10 years, AI has grown a lot. So I was working heavily with I'm sorry, my Teams just crashed. Are you still able to hear me well? Is it still working?
We hear you. We hear you fine.
Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
you're good.
I have just a black screen on my end. So after that, I was heavily invested on AI, and I like the execution of something that Eric mentioned. It doesn't not take only one single step to solve the issues that we have right now on AI. It's not only should we improve the hardware, should we improve the system, should we improve the algorithm, should we improve the model itself at the data science level. It's a holistic solution. We need a whole perspective of how the different pieces co-execute together to have the full execution that we're planning. And that was a lot of my research. So after Intel, I got to know more about what Microsoft was doing on it, which was a surprise because I wasn't aware that Microsoft was investing a lot on this holistic execution. And the leadership was great. Right? Eric Dougberger, which is a leader in AHA, it's wonderful. Couldn't get a better leadership than that. And I was very, very keen to join the team. And luckily enough, I did join the team. I did join the team as a senior engineer. And it was a transition from the research perspective to an engineer, mainly because we were switching to be an engineer group. But it's still, there's a lot of groundbreaking work that we are doing, a lot of pathfinding, a lot of, we have to be very in tune to the academia, very in tune to what's happening on the research path, but we have to come with a product. So that's the main goal. And I like that hybrid execution, right? I like to be, I have what I call applied research, right? Understand what is in the community and the academia and the research, but at the same time, how that applies to real scenarios, which will become a product. As soon as I joined, I wanted to take the step to lead different teams, and I got the opportunity to do it. So right now, my current position, which I've been for the last couple of years, it's leading a team heavily in optimizations. Hopefully by now it was clear that my research and my background was heavily in high performance execution. So my team still does that. We do a lot of optimization for single node, multiple node execution, always with the AI workload mindset. That's what we do. We have tons of openings, mainly on the software engineering role, in my team at least. But overall for how we have all different levels of openings. So that's me. I'm happy to answer any questions that anybody might have.
So how large is your team, and what are some of the roles that are on your team?
That's a good question. So we have grown a lot in the last year. So right now my team is 8, and we have 2 joining us soon. So we are going to be 10. And if you would have asked me this question a year and a half ago, I will tell you 2. So you see how much the progression has gone.
Wow.
The openings that we have right now, it's software engineer roles. It's going to be the junior or middle career levels. And
Okay.
we're open to also consider senior. I think at this point, we would like to have a very broad spectrum of candidates. We're happy to explore all of them.
Awesome. I saw some candidates ask a question about what technologies are used in AHA, and you answered that question in the chat. So for those candidates that are interested in those software engineering opportunities that Fanny just mentioned, scroll up in the chat and you'll see where she touched on it. But I don't know if you want to speak to some of the technologies that you all use, the software engineers use in your team.
Yeah, definitely. I can go deeper into the software positions. So for the software position, the whole software stack that we have, it's C++. So heavily on C++, that will be our main driver of languages for us. But because we interact a lot with AI workloads, that means that we have to also be with Python and PyTorch or any other environment, mainly Python environment, right? So it could be PyTorch, it could be Onyx, it could be TensorFlow, but mainly will be around Python. So those will be the main 2 languages that I would highly recommend to highlight it on your resume or to brush off, because many of the tech screening will be on those languages.
So let me ask my favorite question, and I'm gonna for the other panelists that are coming up next, I'm gonna probably ask you guys this question as well. But Fanny, you could be first, right? So what is it that you like? Cool. So what is it that you like most about working for Microsoft?
Wow, that's a hard question. The main reason why it's a hard question because I have so many things that I like about working at Microsoft. At this point in the Bay Area, I've been in 3 different companies, Apple, Intel, and now Microsoft. And I love all of them for different reasons. But I think something that I will fully agree with Eric is culture. I'm not saying that the culture is not good in other companies, but I think here, the way that the team has grown is in a very amazing way, has kept the culture of being humble. That means that there are very, very smart people in the team, but at the same time, they're very humble. So that kind of hybrid behavior allows to have better collaboration, better execution, quicker progress. So that's super important when you want to move faster and you want to feel empowered as well, right? You want to feel empowered to contribute. You want to feel empowered to actually have a voice on the table. And that's something that the culture here enables a lot. So I love the most that. Very close second will be the technology that we are working. What we are doing is a very groundbreaking technology. We're trying to move the needle in the industry, and that's very hard to do it. And maybe Microsoft and a few other companies have the power to back up and make that happen. But in the field that we are working, which is AI, I think it's going to be, if it is not already, a disruptive technology that's going to change everything in the next 10 to 20 years. And being part of that disruption is very, very powerful for me. And I love that. So this will be my top two if I can choose about the different things that I love about being in Microsoft.
Awesome. So finally, thank you for being one of our panelists. I don't know if you have to reset your teams if it's still frozen, but I had that issue before. There's a hardware acceleration setting. If you disable it, it may fix the problem.
It's back, so no worries. I'm good on my end. Thank you.
Okay, cool. All right, so let's introduce our next panelist, who is Rich Baca, Principal Hardware Engineering Manager within AHA. So Rich, if you're ready.
Yeah, hi everyone. Thank you for the invitation and a chance to meet with you guys. So like Eric, I'm a son of immigrants. My mother's from Mexico, my father's from Ecuador. I was born in New York, but I grew up in Illinois, and we made our way to Brownsville, Texas. When I was in a high school in Illinois, my dad dropped the bomb that we're moving to Texas, and I didn't know anything about Texas. So I was scrambling to figure out, okay, where am I going to go to school? Because my plan was to go to the U of I in Champaign. And so I had a excellent physics teacher. He said, hey, why don't you look at A&M? They have a good engineering school. So I was able to apply and get in, and that was a great experience. Going to a 30,000 plus school where I knew 0 people on campus. It was great, great learning opportunity for me. To learn just to adjust to a different situation. While at A&M, I studied electrical engineering, and I came to love electromagnetics. I did an internship with General Dynamics, working on aerospace, F-16, F-111, and the problem with electromagnetics is you can't really do much with a bachelor's degree. So I decided to apply at some universities, and I was fortunately accepted at the U of I, and I got to fulfill my high school dream of going to school there. For my master's, again, studied computational electromagnetics, but after finishing, I decided I'd like to try something more applied, and so I switched topics and joined a physics group looking at semiconductor laser simulation. I was hoping that it would be more applied, but again, it was very simulation based, a lot of theory and programming. So when I left, I was able to land a job at Texas Instruments in Dallas, and there I got my first taste of hands-on work. The projects we had were microwave fiber optic links, where we were taking fibers and aligning them to photodetectors. Again, my background in the university was all simulation and theory, and here I had a first chance to work with hardware, and I loved it. I left TI to join some startups, several startups, and what's typical with a startup is they fail. So all the startups I ever joined, they didn't make it. I was talking with my family the other day, and my wife reminded me, no more startups. I was able to get back to more stable companies, working with Tel Labs, where I worked on a fiber to the home, GPON OLT transceiver. Um, uh, um, if you have a FiOS or AT&T fiber to the home, you probably have some equipment that's similar to what we deployed. I left Tel Labs and joined a fiber infrastructure cabling company. Very boring stuff. Their product was selling fiber optic cables with connectors and passive patch panels to connect it all. Super boring, except you try and make your job interesting. So what I did was more of R&D in trying to position our company favorably against competitors with demonstrations of how our product work with the latest transceiver technologies. So there I got my tie-in to bring in the actives and make it interesting. When I joined Microsoft, I was super excited because I knew they're trying some new things, and they're probably not going to go away like my startups did. I joined a group that was networking, and they were deploying a new regional transceiver technology that was developed by a partner company that we had. This was their first time to develop optical transceivers, and so I want to say it was a nice, smooth transition. But as you can imagine, someone that's never done this before, guess what? There's going to be surprises. So I struggled in the lab, worked closely with our vendor to getting this to work, and was able to land this in a data center in Virginia. Fast forward to today, I left that group and joined a server group. Again, my interest, maybe I forgot to mention that my interest is on the fiber optic side. So I joined a server group where at the time there was no fiber optics on the server. So it was a little bit of a risky move, but even back then, the leaders in the organization knew we're going to need fiber optics in the future. So I was able to work on some projects where, again, developed a new product in fiber optic connectors. And again, I was able to deploy this technology in the data center last year. Made a trip Super Bowl Sunday in the middle of the pandemic. I love my leaders for allowing this crazy fool to travel during a pandemic to go deploy this. The trip went great, and it was a great success. More recently, I joined a group that is immersion cooling. So Eric hit on this. Immersion cooling has some advantages as we go to higher power CPUs, being more energy efficient. There's a huge initiative at Microsoft to be carbon neutral and carbon positive in a pretty aggressive schedule. So this project supports that. Again, immersion cooling is more of a mechanical thermal project, but it also needs optics. So getting to work on some really cool technology that no one's done before. So I really love that about AHA and about my job. Let's see, there was one more thing. Oh yeah, so my wife knows I love the startup environment. If it were back to me, I would be working at a startup. But she voiced some real concerns. How do you pay the bill and raise kids when you don't have income because your company just folded? So for me, Microsoft has that element that they're going to explore new technologies, but they've got great financial backing. So if you look at the projects that I've been involved with at Microsoft, you're stretching technology, pushing the envelope, but it's not like you're going to go away because you came to an answer that, hey, this isn't going to work and we got to fold the company. No, we had a meeting today with our AHA leadership to discuss this very thing. How do we take risks? How do we take risks to push the envelope on things that may or may not work? But if they work, it's going to position Microsoft in a great position. Microsoft's very supportive with new ideas, and again, the group we're involved in, the Aussie, the AHA group. Our charter is to go do some new architecture. So we're constantly doing new things, and it's really exciting.
Awesome. Awesome. Thanks, Rich. So to our candidates, if you have questions specifically for Rich and what he does, please drop those questions in the chat. And then Rich, if you can keep an eye on the chat for any questions you can answer. So for the sake of time, we've got two more panelists that I'd like to introduce. And our next panelist is Eric Kelly, a software engineer too within AHA. But I'm going to encourage our candidates, if you have questions for Fanny or Rich or Eric once he finishes up, please ask those questions in the chat. And then to our Microsoft team, if you can look out for those answers in the chat, just for the sake of time, because we are running out of time quick, but I want to make sure to introduce our other speakers so our candidates can ask some questions. Okay, Eric, if you're ready.
Okay, yeah, I am. That's fantastic that we're running out of time. I'm not much of a public speaker anyway. So, as you can see from my slide, I'm from Los Angeles. I am self-taught, meaning I don't have never got a degree in computer science. So from a very early age, from about 16, 17, I started tinkering as one who really enjoys video games and has a desire to make web-based video games might. I was making job applets at that time, so that probably ages me quite a bit. So it was about 20 years ago. I was making job applets. I was working primarily, I was experimenting on the web stack. And from there, I kept getting jobs in various different roles, doing different things. I consider myself to be a generalist, which means I have a broad amount of experience in a lot of areas. So I've worked here, there, the web stack, Windows applications. I've worked for VoIP companies, and I've worked for other companies. A company that attached a camera to the bottom of a small plane and recorded videos for oil pipelines, just to make sure that there's no oil pipeline damage or danger. Just to quickly summarize, I've been everywhere. So for any of you out there who are unsure about maybe what you'd be able to give the AHA specifically, I've been here for 3 months, and I'm learning as I go many things, and I've never learned as much as I have the past 3 months as I ever have before in my adult life. So I am a product of this group, this event, by the way. I don't know if Will knows that. He might.
Did not know that.
But I am a product of this group, of this event. So I interviewed a couple times at Microsoft after someone picked up my resume. Apparently I interviewed well enough for my manager to pick me up and join the group, and I'm grateful for that.
Awesome.
Yeah, thanks, Tracy.
That's super awesome. So let me ask you a quick question, because
Sure.
I think this will help and motivate some of our candidates. What is it that you think the team that brought you on when you had your interview, what is it that you think that they liked about your experience and you in the interview process that got you hired? What is it that you?
Easily, my energy is definitely one of the things. I'm really passionate about this. This is not something I do for. I could be doing a lot of things, and I'm the type of person who has to be doing something that I'm genuinely passionate about and that I genuinely enjoy. And I think that comes through. I also studied a lot before this. I studied.
There you go. Tell them.
For a year, okay? To get real with you guys. Absolutely, for a year. I was working a job, and I decided to move states. I was living in Los Angeles. I bought a house in Atlanta, and during this entire time, everything was crazy and hectic. I never, there was not one day that I did not have my head in books, in code, taking notes for hours every single day, no matter what I was doing. So I think that came through too. It's not hard for people to see your passion when it's genuine, when it comes from that place. You'll feel it. It comes through, you know. And I encourage anyone out there to rely on that. And I'm glad that I was picked for this, and not because I know, you know, as much as Eric or Rich might know about AHA or Microsoft, which I don't. You can absolutely get that from them. But I'm here to tell you that it is absolutely possible. And coming to this company was the best professional decision I've made so far. So I love Microsoft. Sorry.
Let me hit the timeout right there.
Okay.
So I want everybody, that all of the candidates that are here on this call, right? Eric said he studied every single day for about a year leading up to his interview and landing the job. And he just said that it was worth it. And this is, I guess, like the dream job for you. You're very happy that you landed the job. So all of that preparation and time that he put in to prepare, and now that he has a job and he's happy that it sounds like it was worth it. So the message to our candidates is preparation. And that obviously this is a great company, because you can see it from the way the people that work here and the stories that they tell, and you know, the things that they like. So with that, Eric, can you tell us what you like so far most about working at Microsoft?
There's so much. I enjoy learning, and there's so much to learn. I enjoy the fact that all of my peers are very open to help and to educate about anything. And even if they don't have the time to necessarily walk through something with me, they'll point you in the right direction. They will point you in the direction that they know, and you can go from there. And if you're hungry, passionate, and willing to take the time and energy and make the effort to study, you will find solutions. And I'll be absolutely real with you guys. There have been nights there have been days where I've just worked constantly on a specific problem. And it's not because I was thrown more than I can handle. It's because there was a learning curve that I needed to overcome. And I already made the decision before I joined Microsoft to accept that curve sporadically as it comes. And that's helped me out a whole lot. So Microsoft, everything that you've heard is not just lip service. The company has a mental direction to sort of nurture its employees and be inclusive from the top down, and you feel it. It's absolutely it's unreal, because I've never worked in that environment, but it's also very real, as in it's a very real thing. So, and I'm a product of that. My job, my occupation at Microsoft is a direct product of that. So that I don't want to take too much time, but that's what I have.
No, I think that's awesome, Eric. And G, you didn't tell me that. You slid one in on me, G. so Eric, hey, first of all, congratulations.
Thank
you. And second of all, thanks for your insight. And to our candidates, if you have questions for Eric, because one of the questions I was going to ask you, but I'm afraid we might run out of time. Maybe you can touch on it in the chat. Is what was it like for you to onboard during COVID-19, and are you working remote? Are you working remote currently?
I am, yeah.
But where are you located now?
Atlanta.
Okay, Atlanta. Are you going to go into the Atlanta office once once that opens up?
Oh, I think I might be moving to Sunnyvale. That might happen. But
Okay.
I'll definitely be going to Redmond. I don't know if I'll be going to the Atlanta office. I thought about it.
Okay.
I might make that trip actually. Now that you mentioned it, I might do that. Yeah, go to the Coca-Cola Museum while I'm at it. Just make it a day. Yeah, thanks.
Awesome. So Eric, thanks for being one of our panelists. And to our candidates, if you have questions for Eric, ask those questions in the chat. And Eric, if you can just drop in the chat what it was like for you to onboard during COVID-19. All right. So last but not least, we also have Luis Guillermo Bonilla Pereira, hardware design verification engineer from Costa Rica. So Luis, if you're ready.
Yeah, can you hear me well?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, hello everyone. Thanks for the opportunity to be here. Yeah, my name is Luis Bonilla. I'm originally from Cartago, Costa Rica. I've been working in structural design at Intel Costa Rica. Then by stroke of luck, I moved to the US with Intel, same thing, but working on design verification for high-speed I/O, basically. And after 6 years of working there, 3 months ago, actually, I decided to take an opportunity to work at Microsoft. I got a bachelor degree in the University of Costa Rica, in Costa Rica, of course. And one of the things that actually led me to apply for this position was the opportunity to work on in artificial intelligence. That was one of the things that I always have been very curious about. But at the same time, I was very worried because my previous experience, the 6 years on design verification, was not relevant on artificial intelligence. Of course, at the end, the position that I applied for, which is the one that I'm working currently, is in design variation, but it's not on, but is, of course, in an APU, which is at the end artificial intelligence. So what I'm trying to say here is, don't be discouraged to be applying for a position if you don't think you have the correct background on this. It's always worth it to try to apply because at the end, what they say, and this is something that I totally agree with what Eric was saying. As long as this is something that you are passionate about, this is something that you, if you love to learn, this is the right group for you. And that's basically what I wanted to say.
Awesome. Thank you, Luis. So you've been with Microsoft for 3 months. Are you working remote currently?
Currently, completely remote. I'm working on Beaverton, and I really don't even know where the site is, just to give you an idea.
Where are you located currently?
I'm in Beaverton, Oregon.
Oh, okay. And so can you talk a little bit about the makeup of your team? Like how many folks are on
Can you come again? I think I'm breaking.
Okay. Can you talk a little bit about what your team looks like as far as the types of experience?
Yeah, sure. Can you repeat the question? I think my network is
Okay.
messed. Sure.
No problem. Can you talk a little bit about what your team looks like, the type of roles that are on your team?
So right now my team is a horizontal team. What that means is we're currently only on validation for hardware. Basically, what we look at is candidates that knows about UVM, System Verilog, C++, Python. As I said, it's nice to have experience in AI, but it's not necessarily totally required, right? But mostly what we are looking for is an UVM and good understanding of UVM, the methodology, and also System Verilog, of course.
So I know you've only been at Microsoft for 3 months, but what is it that you like most? What is it that you like most so far?
So given from my previous experience from Intel, one of the things that it was a very good surprise, very nice surprise, was how collaborative the work is. Not only like sometimes that you ask questions and people are is really good answering, but also on your day-to-day, there's everything that we do new or it's not like you are on your own. You will be always working as a team. And as a team, we try to resolve the hardest problems that we get. And as a team, we try to get with the best solution that that we can. So that's one of the things that I enjoy the most working here.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you, Luis. So to our other Microsoft panelists, if you can turn on your video feed, we've got a few minutes left. So I'd like to ask a few questions for a brief panel discussion for the sake of time. And then I'll also keep an eye out in the chat for any questions that come through for our candidates. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add the Microsoft folks to the spotlight so that we can focus on our Microsoft team members. There we go. All right. I think we've got everyone. Okay, so let me kick off the quick panel discussion with a canned question that I have, and that is this question is for someone that's worked at other companies before coming to Microsoft. So I'll default this one to you, Eric. What is different about working for Microsoft as compared to some of the other places you've worked?
Wow, yeah, there are a lot. This is my I guess first big tech company role, so I can't necessarily compare apples to apples. But there's small tangible things. There's an emphasis on taking holidays, which is a thing for me because I don't. And I've worked at places where it wasn't discouraged for me not to, but there wasn't anyone to obviously pick up my shift, or I had to keep working, keep producing because the company needed to continue. And Microsoft is very, very, very. I have had both of my managers, and my manager's managers have both encouraged me to take holidays and take some time for myself. I've never had, and I didn't ask for it. It was more. It was just given to me, and I've never experienced that. So that's one example. I think Microsoft just like broadly wants to do well for its employees, for Microsoft's employees, and it's you can see that because there's so much available as far as of course healthcare, and as far as wellness apps. Their whole routines and regimens there to keep us all healthy, and to sort of I guess just give us all the tools we need to sort of to take care of ourselves. And I've never experienced that. I love that about Microsoft. Absolutely love it. Yeah, and like Louise was saying, peers have been wonderful. So for those of you who haven't worked at a larger tech company before, that's nothing to be concerned about here. You'll love them. So
awesome. All right, so let me ask this next question to Fanny. So Fanny, this is gonna be a two-part question. I'm gonna ask the first part to Fanny and the second part to Luis, and that is about concerning the interview process. So as a manager, can you give any advice to candidates that are preparing to interview, for example, if they were going to interview for your team? And then the second part will be for Luis, and what was his interview process like? So Fanny, if you can give us a little insight.
Yeah, so maybe you have heard this many times, but it's super useful. If there is an opening and there is a rec open there that has a description about the role itself, fine-tune your resume for that role. Because as a hiring manager, we will review a lot of resumes. So it gets through a process that we already know what we are looking. And sometimes it might be there, but if it is not highlighted on the resume, it will be very hard to pick on that. So fine-tune your resume for the specific position that you're applying. Have the time to have a very custom-made resume for that position. Once that's done, and then you pass to the next phases, there will be, an initial informational with the manager, and then there will be the technical screening and the full on-site. For the first informational, the whole goal of the informational is to match or align the two sides. From one end, I want to share what is the opening about it, what we are looking for that position. And also I want to hear from the candidate what they are looking for on their next role, because we want to find the highest level of matching for this one. If the position is not interested for the candidate, maybe the candidate has the skills, but is not interested. So we should not be wasting cycles there. So that informational call, I recommend the candidates spend some time understanding the role as much as you can. Ask questions, because that's the perfect place to ask questions about the position, about the team, about everything that you're curious about it. And showcasing that interest will actually translate to that person being very interested on the opening, either for moving forward or not, but it shows a lot of interest. And that's always a good thing. It might not be that it's landing to my rec, but it might be landing to another hiring manager. So I can also forward the resume to their candidate. So always have that in mind. Be sure that what you are looking for, and be clear on that information. For the next two rounds, the technical screening and on the on-site, it's just a lot of study. I think Eric mentioned that before. Study, brush up your skills. This is a software engineer. Most of my team in Ohio, it's part of the software engineering. So in the software engineering role, and I can speak about it, just brush up your skills, go and practice a lot, understand the technicality of some of the problems that you want to face it or you want to solve. And a lot of practice, that will help you a lot on the technical screening. The main reason is because it's just an hour, so you want to be very quick on answering, because you want also an optimized version if possible. So it's good to practice. The practice will be super, super valuable on that. And elaborate, right? Another thing that many candidates do not do it is share their thoughts. This is two-way street, so I want to understand what they're thinking. So be very articulated, communicate very well what you're thinking. Even if it takes a little longer to resolve the problem, I want to understand what are the thinking process behind that. So articulate, communicate as much as you can, and ask questions. Always ask questions. Don't make assumptions. Always ask questions. That's also super helpful to not be blocked on a question on an interview. I think that will be my main top recommendations.
Awesome. So candidates, I hope you're listening to that, but we have it recorded just in case. So I wanted to give another perspective. Luis, what was it like in your interview process to interview for the role that you currently hold?
So I started interviewing last year during COVID. So the whole process was online. Basically, it was a round of 6 different interviews. 2 of them, 4 of them were technical. 2 of them were more like, I don't know how to say, how do you work kind of interview, or what do you think about this kind of topics? In general, my primary recommendation would be, can I stress this more? Study. Be honest with the interviewer, especially during the aptitude kind of interviews. Asking questions is very, very important, not only because this also applies for the technical interviews. If you don't understand something, you just ask questions, and kind of the way you ask questions is the way they know that you actually know about a specific topic. But basically, try to be as honest as possible and study a lot for those interviews. No matter how many years you have on experience of a specific topic, it's better just to refresh concepts and study as much as possible.
Awesome. So let me pose this last question to Rich, and then we'll talk about next steps. And this last question is sort of a current events type of question. So with the current situation with COVID-19, how did that affect the way that your team works?
Yeah.
I would love to just shed a little insight on that.
A great question, and I love what Eric had to say about the company cares about your well-being. We went remote work from home coming up on 2 years ago, and for me it was hard when my mindset is I need to go to the office and get my work done, and then I'm home. I don't need to, think work because I've been there all day long. So that really changed. I think Eric hit the nail on the head. It's a struggle to unplug. That's one of the things I'm still learning when you're remote. You can check your email, check your messages day or night. My wife's always getting on my case about be done already. I think naturally we all need this human element of interaction, and that's been really hard. Our teams, nobody has to go into the office, but some of us have a desire just to connect. So once a week, some of my teammates and I will go into the office just to see each other and catch up. We love the flexibility, the hybrid work environment that Microsoft supports. At the same time, Teams and virtual connections not the same as being in person. So I think just our group, I would say we've been supportive that, hey, this is hard, and let's find ways to connect with each other.
Awesome. So let me be the first to thank all of our panelists. You guys are awesome. And did a great job sharing your experiences, sharing the opportunities that you have on your teams, and giving our candidates an idea or under the hood peek at AHA. So thank you for being panelists for us this evening. And I know we ran a little bit over, but hopefully the information shared has been good for all of our candidates and got some of your questions answered. But let's talk about next steps. So as I mentioned early on, this is a hiring event. The hope is that some of you land interviews and some of you get hired from this event. But the other hope is as well that maybe you might not be ready for an interview now, or maybe you don't get an offer right now. But as you can see, for example, from Eric, who was our keynote speaker, who's now a leader within AHA, he went and interviewed 3 times, and it took a 4th time before he got hired, and now he's a leader within the organization. Eric, who attended one of our previous events, apparently, and now he's hired, and working within AHA and Microsoft, and he talked about his experience preparing for the interview. So it wasn't just a year ago that he interviewed and got hired. He prepared, and now he has an excellent opportunity. So this is we're presenting this opportunity to you, and the hope is some of you will get interviewed and hired now, but then also in the future. So when we talk about next steps, we probably already have your resume, but based on, if you just heard the advice from Fanny, she said you want to gear your resume towards the opportunity. So if you want to update your resume this evening and send it to us in the morning, we're going to share all of your resumes with the Microsoft AHA team. They're going to review the resumes and start reaching out to candidates as opportunities open up that are aligned with your skill set. All right, so you want to make sure we have your latest and greatest resume, and then keep an eye on your inbox and keep an eye on your spam folder as well, because we don't know where the emails are going to show up. That might be your opportunity to interview with Microsoft. And the good news is, when I sent out the interviews, the invite for this event, I got several folks that replied back to me saying they got hired from the last event, so they won't be attending. So that's awesome news. I wish you all the best of luck. Let me thank you again, the Microsoft team, and let me thank all of the candidates that attended, because if you guys didn't come, this event would not be possible. So we appreciate you. We thank you. Big shout out to G, a big shout out to Jesse, and to all of our panelists. So thank you. Everybody have a good evening.